all op-eds, well, they're just that. They're opinion pieces, right? Well, here's what the New York Times staffers are saying. Quote, "This puts Black at New York Times staff in danger," end quote. Well, now the New York Times has released a mea culpa statement, and here's what it says. Quote, "A rushed editorial process led to the publishing of an op-ed that did not meet our standards. And as a result, we're planning to examine both short-term and long-term changes to include expanding our fact-checking operations and reducing the number of op-eds we publish," end quote. Well, joining us to talk about all this is political and economic commentator Trish Regan. You know, Trish, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
Well, this is a really interesting circumstance. You have a situation where you have a U.S. senator writing an op-ed about something the president's doing, his opinion. New York Times comes out, their staff complaining about it and saying that it doesn't, one, meet their standard, yet they have not told Senator Cotton's office what standards it missed, and also saying they're going to increase, which I think is really interesting, their fact-checking team, saying that maybe it wasn't factual. But what facts? Because this is an op-ed. So what does it say when the New York Times can't print a view that is dissenting?
Oh, that they're a bunch of intellectual babies that don't want to be challenged in any way, shape, or form. I mean, listen, I mean, part of life, part of journalism, part of understanding the world in which we live, right, is understanding different viewpoints and having some diversity of thought, intellectual diversity. But if you're someone who just wants to cover your ears and say, absolutely not, I'm not going to tolerate that viewpoint, I don't want to hear this, it hits too close to home for me, then you're really not engaging in any kind of meaningful dialogue. And that's what I'm struck by here. This New York Times, which, look, let's face it, we've known for years how liberal they are, but nonetheless, I don't care whether you're left or right. You ought to be willing. You ought to be willing to listen to all kinds of different points of view. And this is a sitting U.S. senator elected by the American people with his opinion, and you tell me that you're not going to listen to it, period. It's a sorry state we're in. And look, it's part of this whole cancel culture, whether it's degrees or myself included. If you dare to say something that the left does not agree with, off with your head, effectively. And so now Senator Cotton is paying the price, and the New York Times is all up in arms because they didn't like what he had to say.
Well, the funny part about it, Trish, is they did. They initially went through the process. Senator Cotton's office said that they went through revisions and back and forth. And then somehow, you know, even the publisher and everyone there talks about how they wanted to make sure they stood by it initially and said that it was important that his voice be heard because it's and there's nothing factual. The thing that I find fascinating is not just that they denounced it now, but then they came up with this bogus excuse that Lindsay read out where they start talking about the fact they're going to fact check it. There's nothing in there that is incorrect. And their answer, by the way, and you just touched on this, you saw the other part of their statement, which is we are going to make the opinion page smaller. So the answer is let's get rid of more voices, not increase them, because we can't possibly have a dissenting view.
No, listen, as a society, we don't progress that way. We progress by listening to a lot of different points of view and making our own decisions, right? I mean, we're capable people as human beings, as intellects. And I mentioned that as intellects, you ought to be able to hear a discerning viewpoint and not overreact as the New York Times did. I mean, look, there's a business aspect to it, too, right? They were worried because they were going to get canceled subscriptions and, you know, the whole newsroom is all up in arms. But it shows you just what intellectual babies some people have become.
Yeah, and I think it's saddening at times because, like you said, it's trying to bring the air out of the room essentially and say we can only have one viewpoint here. We can't have multiple viewpoints, and that's essentially what's made America great, that we are able to have a civil conversation even though we may not agree with everyone in the room. And now it's saying if you don't agree with me, then we can't listen to anything that you have to say.
You know it's interesting, Trish, and we reached out to the New York Times, to their PR people, and asked them whether or not anyone on the staff of the editorial page has ever served in the military, because Tom Cotton, as we mentioned, has served, and he wrote this, based on his experience. And the point here, they have not gotten us a response yet, and everything publicly that we're able to find on the people who serve there show that they don't have anyone, at least to our knowledge. Maybe they do, but they haven't confirm to us that they do, and nothing on the bios of those people suggests that they do. So it's interesting. They literally are clouding out any view that might be dissenting from this left-wing ideology that they want to continue to drum into people. So it's shocking. I know they're left-wing. I know that it's not like this is new news, but the lengths to which they're going now is what is continuing to baffle me. Between them and this social media that we're seeing, it's like literally what you're saying. The cancel culture is alive, well, and unfortunately growing. So thank you for sharing your perspective with us. I hope you have a great weekend. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Lindsay.
All right. Well, coming up, we've got country music legend Ricky Skaggs. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back.